Well, the Northwest Department of Community Safety and Transport Management has given an update on where 100 million rand meant for the refurbishment of two airports in Mahikeng and Pilanesberg International Airport in Rustenburg went. Concern has been raised over the appalling state of the two airports. Now, our reporter Refiloe Seboko joins us now with the full story. Refiloe, the aim of this briefing was to provide some much-needed clarification. Has there been transparency at all to come out of this briefing?
Well, I guess that's what's causing the confusion about exactly how much money is missing, or if indeed there's money that is missing that was supposed to be allocated for the refurbishment of those two airports, the Dick Montshioa Airport in Mahikeng, Pilanesberg in Rustenburg. But allow me to welcome HOD of Community Safety and Transport in the Northwest Province, Mr. Morule. Thank you so much and welcome to Newzroom Afrika. The confusion, the missing 100 million rand that was meant to renovate these two airports in the province. What is happening? Why is there no transparency on what really is happening with these funds?
There is transparency. From the side of the department, there is transparency. From the side of the department, there is no confusion. We reported earlier that nothing close to 100 million was ever apportioned to the department. We indicated as a department that the actual money spent was not even spent at GD Montshioa, but the bulk of the money was spent at Pilanesberg International Airport. And the allocation over the financial years referred to was not even 100 million. We indicated that it was something just over 60 million. And over that budget that was allocated, the actual spending that we could account for as a department is over 50 million. And we indicated that as a department, all our projects that we implement them through our implementing agent, which is the Department of Transport. The Department of Public Works and Roads. And we can also confirm that as a department, we are advocating for transparency. And the budget that has been apportioned to the department or allocated to the department comes through the provincial treasury, and the budget is finally approved by the provincial legislature.
Let me ask this, Mr. Morule. What was that money used for that was allocated? In terms, when we're looking at issues of renovations, what was done with that money, and how much money was spent in terms of renovations of these airports?
No renovation was done at GD Montshioa. We said the amount that was spent, no major renovation was done. We indicated that we spent around 1.8 million from within the departmental saving. It was not an allocation for renovations at GD Montshioa Airport. The only money that was allocated in the financial year 2019-2020, it was 4 million that was allocated for the renovation of ablution facilities at the airport. And that money was never spent because the implementing agent at the Department of Public Works and Roads did not appoint the civil and structural engineer. We could therefore not spend the money. In the subsequent financial year, which is financial year 2020-21, we indicated that 5 million was allocated, and that 5 million was never spent. And for the Pilanesberg Airport, International Airport, there were renovations that were made, and that was with regard to perimeter fencing. That perimeter fencing is for the protection of the airport from intrusion by wild animals, because at some point the department was faced a lawsuit because the aircraft had hit a watchdog in the runway, and the department faced a lawsuit. We therefore were obligated as a department to ensure the safety of the runway and therefore the erection of the perimeter fencing. That was done in two phases. The phase one, as the MEC indicated, was allocated an amount of, just to indicate, an amount but we spent around over 20 million, but we spent around 40 million. And in the subsequent year, the phase 2, an amount was also allocated, and for the phase 2, and for the phase 2, the building, the Pilanesberg terminal building, was found to be inhabitable, and therefore we had to move all the officials who are working at the airport. We bought porter cabins, and the officials are using the porter cabins.
I want us to touch also on issue of license for these airports, Dick Montshioa. We understand that there's an issue of license. There's also issue of airplanes that get to land in these airports.
Airplanes as in?
As in, there was an issue of the airplane, especially the Dick Montshioa, when there was an oversight that happened there by the portfolio committee officials who are saying they've noted with great concern that there are planes that are landing there, though there's an issue of that airport not having a license for it to operations for more than just an airplane that is being used for students that are in that airport.
We have indicated in our briefing earlier on that the 2 airports are operational. The only challenge that we have is that they've been downgraded to allow certain categories of airports to land. So landing is happening. It is just that you can't land or allow huge aircrafts to land. But those that qualify within the category at which each of the airport are allowed to land. So the landing is happening. And the international license, like we explained, is still with the Pilanesberg Airport. So there's work happening and there's landing happening, but within the category as permitted and allowed by the South African Civil Aviation Authority.
MEC also touched on the challenge being enough funds. He made mention of something about just over 500 million that will be needed for the operations or the proper operation of these 2 airports that is supposed to be contributing to the economy of the province and also contributing to the tourism sector in the province. Is that really the case, that there is limited budget allocated, or the department needs more funds?
I indicated in my explanatory note during the press briefing that the shrinkage in the national fiscus has a direct bearing on the allocation that departments received. And the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management is not an exception. We have been affected by the shrinkage in the national fiscus, but alternative means are being pursued to ensure the functionality and the revitalization of the airports. That is why the MEC in his input, he indicated that we are looking at getting equity partners or getting investors to invest in the airport, and that process is work underway. We are undertaking it as a department, and at the point that we are able to report on progress, we will do so.
Thank you so much for your time. Molefi Morule, he is HOD of the Department of Community Safety and Transport in the Northwest Province, clarifying what has been making rounds, allegations. There's also some confusion. He's saying that as the department, they are transparent.